Get on Team Shaq with WinBet. We're playing parlays, boosting odds, and laying the wildest prop bets. Don't miss another game. Download the WinBet sport betting app today.
Sign up today and win $200 in free bets when you place a $50 first-time wager on a straight bet or parlay. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in a state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Blue Wire.
First pick in the 1991 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Larry Johnson from University.
I'm not supposed to be here, man. A lot of people from where I'm from, don't make it.
Charlotte, we're back.
Welcome, Hornets fans. We got our first bit of news in free agency for the Charlotte Hornets, so we figured we'd podcast about it. This is Richie, and I'll be joined by Brian today for another Buzz Beat. I'm about to head off to Hilton Head for about 4 or 5 days here at the beach. I know that Spencer and Lee are also hitting the beach. Brian seems like he's just gonna stay in. He doesn't want to go to the beach.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a mountain man. Come on, get the beach and the sand out of here. No, I was at the beach for a couple of days back in May, and I'm hoping to get there again in August. I actually have also been to the mountains of Western North Carolina in May as well. Was up in Boone for a long weekend as well. So my trips this summer, I'm all out west. Like I was in Utah a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to be in Colorado a couple times later this summer as well. So, but yeah, I'm jealous you guys get to escape the heat of Central North Carolina and get to the beach, hopefully with some cold beverages.
Yeah, and I checked the weather, and it's supposed to be raining every day, but I don't know if that's just like the beach weather. You know how it just has those chances of thunderstorms in the afternoon. So hopefully those hold off. So, all right, Brian, I know we're going to get into the signing of Cody Martin, and I guess we'll start with Miles Bridges. I just want to talk about it a little bit. I know on the previous podcast, I gave my thoughts about it, and, more information came out. The Instagram post from Michelle Johnson, Miles Bridges' wife, is really what got to me. The bruises, the doctor's report, the video of his son talking is really sad, because the way that he's like retelling it is almost as if it's a common occurrence. And I'm speculating at this point, but the wording in her post as well, where she says, "I can't stay silent anymore," leads me to believe that this wasn't a first time occurrence. And I think we all know what has to be done with the qualifying offer. And I do wonder how much longer it's going to take. But there's really no way that Miles Bridges ever suits up for the Hornets again. So, Brian, just kind of thoughts about this whole situation and how it's gone down and how sad of a situation this is.
Yeah, it's brutal. And, first off, you just want to, you touched on this a little bit, Richie, but just you want to make sure that Michelle, the family, the kids, everyone's safe and feels supported. It's unacceptable behavior, and it has to stop now. And, I think I tweeted this the other day, but just disturbed and disappointed with the behavior of Miles Bridges. And, violence of this nature is certainly not something that's specific to just professional sports or athletes or the NBA or whatever. Like, this is obviously a societal concern and something that can often intersect with, with basketball, with other professional sports. And it's an issue that the NBA probably needs to address. Let me remove the probably out of there. The NBA needs to do a better job addressing this. I'm sure there will be it seems likely that there will be some type of punishment for Bridges as the NBA. I think they released a statement, Mike Bass, saying that they, similar to the Hornets, just saying that they were sort of like gathering information and facts beyond that, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, you can poke your head up and look around and see plenty of guys that have been accused or charged with similar crimes that are still playing or coaching in the NBA. So I don't know what you do about that, but look, Miles Bridges needs to not be playing basketball. Like the guy, I'm speaking out of turn here, but probably needs professional help, counseling, and perhaps something more stringent than that as well. But that certainly seems like that's something that should be in the future for Miles. But no, I think his time in Charlotte is done. I don't think we'll be seeing him in a Hornets uniform anytime too soon, or really another NBA team uniform that soon. I suppose you never know. And who knows what'll happen later on down the road, years from now. I don't know. But like, it's a terrible situation, and my heart breaks for the family, the kids, the public nature of this. Michelle, like everyone, it's pretty horrific. And, beyond that, like, it's just I suppose this is like not the point, but just it's this is a guy that I really enjoyed watching play basketball, especially the last 2 seasons, Miles Bridges, and to see his ascent as a player, sort of like on the precipice of bigger things. And I've like a while ago, I got over trying to like assume that professional athletes are, you can't like project your beliefs and your attitudes and your priorities onto these guys. Like they're people or whatever too. They've got their own lives, but you can certainly hope that they wouldn't be violent towards loved ones or family members or partners or women, whatever. And I'll be honest with you, like, I don't want to see him play basketball anytime again. I just don't. Again, this was someone that was a thrill to watch, but we're only getting just such a small snippet of this person's life when even though we're watching probably every game Miles ever played in the NBA, and certainly someone that I watched at Michigan State too. Personally, feel like a little sick just thinking about the amount of time devoted to writing about him or talking about him or tweeting about him or thinking about it.
I mean, you texted the other day about like, it just feels so weird that we actually rooted for this guy. I mean, we were one of his biggest fans when it comes to his on-court performance. But to your point, that isn't the point here. It's bigger than that. Yeah. And I do wonder, Brian, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this before we transition to Cody. What do you think the holdup is when it comes to the Hornets not making a decision on this qualifying offer? Is it the league? Have they stepped in? Are they waiting for more details when it comes to the legal process? Like, what do you think the holdup is here in terms of that aspect of it?
Yeah, your guess is probably as good as mine. I would assume that there is communication between all 3 of these components that you sort of mentioned, like the Hornets and the NBA, and whatever might happen from a criminal standpoint. Mm-hmm. Obviously Bridges posted bail that night after initially ducking an interaction with law enforcement, which certainly doesn't make the situation look any better, obviously. So yeah, my guess would be that everyone's being careful to kind of before they fully weigh in on this. Obviously the timing of it is, I mean, it is what it is, I suppose. Like there's just never a good time for something like this that should just never happen in general. But just given when it happened, like it's just at such a critical juncture. I know basketball and team building, like that stuff's not important when we're talking about domestic violence. But yeah, it really does put them in a holding pattern. And my guess is just they're being as careful as possible, but I don't think that we're going to see. But like when this is all said and done, I don't think we're going to see Miles playing for Charlotte next season, and I think that will be the correct decision.
100%.
Do you have any thoughts on that too? As far as just sort of like, I mean, it's one of those things now where it feels like this has gone on for a long time. It really is still pretty fresh. It's still been just a couple of days. But do you have any thoughts on that? On like the timeline and how things have progressed or not progressed?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think, like you said, I do think, I think they have to be in contact with the league. The league probably isn't saying you have to do this or that with the qualifying offer, but I know they want to take all the proper steps, get all the information that they can get before making a move. I don't know if the league has put kind of like a pause or a hold on any kind of transaction that deals with Miles Bridges. So even if another team, not that another team wants to, but even if another team wanted to send him a offer sheet, like they're just saying, hey, we're just not going to touch Miles Bridges right now. I have no clue. But I do think that if the Hornets really, really wanted to do something, they could just take away the qualifying offer right now and no one would bat an eye, right? I mean, I think that's the right thing to do regardless of how the legal system plays out, because I think his court date is July 20th, which is well past when the moratorium ends, and there's going to be things that have happened since then. So I just think they need to cut ties, move forward, and just kind of progress as an organization. I know this is setting them back, and they were obviously very inactive to start free agency. Obviously, a lot of it is due to this, and our first signing didn't come until today with Cody Martin. So do you want to transition to Cody Martin or any kind of parting thoughts on Miles?
I think I said everything I wanted to get out here. So yeah. Again,
right.
It's a heartbreaking situation, but let's get on to something of a little bit better news here regarding the Hornets.
Cody Martin signed a 4-year deal, $32 million. We don't know all the details yet of this transaction in terms of, is it just a straight 4-year contract? Are there any options, any non-guaranteed years? But what the Hornets can offer him is 8% raises, which is something that others cannot because they do have his bird rights. So we'll see how that, the actual final details of the contract pans out. But regardless of how it looks, I think a 4-year deal for Cody Martin, my initial reaction was very fair. I was expecting this guy to get anywhere from like the 6 to 10 range, maybe a little bit higher. And it kind of fell right there. And I know I hate when people say this, but it's a term that people like to use a lot. It's a very tradable contract. Yeah. It's almost as if like, okay, we're planning to trade this guy. But if you want to call it a tradable contract, it's a tradable contract. To me, yes, he is a player that comes off the bench, but for $8 million, on average a year, it's awesome for this guy. I think when you look at this team last year and actually projecting to next year, he's the team's best all-around defensive player. You can argue Jalen McDaniels, but when it comes to like minutes and stuff like that, like he's out there more than Jalen, so he has more of an impact. He's a scrappy player, hustle player. He gets to those 50-50 balls, and a player that's improved on the offensive end of the court. And we can only hope that he continues to make those steps from behind the arc. One thing that I've always loved about him, and I don't know if the numbers always bear this out, but just how aggressive he is in getting to the rim. He may not be the best at the rim, but he has a way about him. And I've said this a couple of times on the podcast where he has a combination of assertiveness, but also when he gets closer to the rim, he has a controlled nature to him. So he's been with this team for 3 years. He's a second-round pick, so it's a pretty cool story how this guy has turned into a second contract with the Hornets, signing a 4-year, $32 million contract. So those were kind of my initial thoughts with Cody Martin. Very, very fair deal in my eyes.
Yeah, I have a lot. I think I have kind of a lot I'd like to touch on with Cody. And just first off, a salute. Like, I believe is he the first second round pick in Hornets history to re-sign like a multi-year deal?
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
I think I saw British Buzz tweet that earlier. I'd have to confirm that, I suppose, independently. But look, the 2019 draft is looking to be a pretty good one for the Hornets. PJ in the lottery. We'll see where perhaps maybe there's an extension in line for him now this summer. we'll see, but certainly
Yep.
someone that probably factors into the long-term picture of the Hornets. And look, they picked up the team option a couple days ago for Jalen McDaniels. So again, that 2019 draft has turned out to be, a pretty good one. And Charlotte found a couple of, rotation players that they drafted and developed in the second round with Martin and McDaniels. And man, to go from a 5-year college player, right, starting at NC State, I covered Cody Martin his freshman and sophomore year when he was at State, and I was, a young reporter at the time. And 5-year college career, second round pick, man, that's a pretty that's not a very glamorous path, and then to work himself up into getting what has the potential to be a $32 million contract. We'll see how how it's structured and perhaps what maybe if there are any options attached or what have you, but it's a lot of money for a guy that grew up dirt poor in Mocksville, North Carolina. So it's a hell of a rise. It's a very cool story. I got to interview Cody on Old Sports Channel 8, the radio show, the day after he got drafted in 2019 or 2 days after he got drafted. And to see, him going from a back end of the rotation hustle guy to, in a make or break season, him making it this year. And this contract, this contract is just proof of it. And Cody Martin's first 2 seasons in the NBA, 0.54 points per spot up possession, just 23% shooting on corner threes, only 70 attempts. This season, Cody Martin, 1.08 points per spot up possession, 59% effective shooting. Obviously got off to the great start and cooled off, but it ended up finishing up at a great number there. Right. 39% shooting from the corners, with 22% of his field goal attempts coming on corner threes. He shot 40% on above the break threes, 39% shooting on threes. Effective field goal percentage, 56% after being basically right at 50% his first 2 seasons. Shot 65% at the rim. He really is a guy that is all dunks, he's all everything. It's, threes or it's at the rim. Mm-hmm. We talked about his poise finishing at the rim. I mean, the numbers bear it out. And he's a frisky finisher as well, but 47% of his shots coming at the rim, according to Cleaning the Glass. That's sort of consistent with where he's been in years past. 35% of his field goal attempts come from beyond the arc. So, I mean, he really is. Everything's restricted area or it's, a catch and shoot three. We have always sort of admired Cody for the winning play mentality, the team defense, the chase down blocks, the deflections. We can quibble with some of the one-on-one defense or how he holds up against, more powerful primary creators or wings. But the team defense, pretty solid. The hustle plays, absolutely there. Long rebounds, loose balls, taking charges, chase down blocks. Again, I kind of think he's like a sneaky good chase down artist. But he had to have the shot, the catch and shoot shot to unlock that other defensive stuff, And it was there this season. The spot up and catch and shoot three was there. So that's a big salute to Cody Martin and a win for Charlotte's scouting department and for their player development. I know that spans, that's the James Borrego and company crew there that was a part of this, but obviously Cody Martin gets a lot of credit as well. And last thing I'll say before I'll throw it back to you, Richie, is that because you touched on the rim finishing and I touched on some of the catch and shoot stuff. He does other stuff offensively too. I think we've talked about this often with Jalen McDaniels as him being a guy that's very solid, cutting along the baseline. And Cody Martin gives you that as well too. So he gives you the spot up shooting. He gives you the baseline cuts. He gives you the ghost screens. He gives you when he can get a straight line drive. In the defense is bent. He can attack off the catch and give you some of that second side creation. He's also a guy that can give Charlotte a little bit of short roll playmaking. And that's something we may need to see more of next season with Cody, but that is something he can do as well. I've got clips of that I'd be happy to at some point put together into a compilation, but he can give you a little bit of everything else offensively. He just needed the jump shot to be the thing that could tie it together. And if that thing doesn't come online, I'm not sure if Cody Martin is like getting a second contract. You know what I mean? But it was here this season, and he earned himself a ton of life-changing money. So it's a win for Charlotte's scouting department, for their player dev department, and for Cody Martin as well.
Yeah, to your point about him being a great cutter, I think as a shooter this year, we saw him be a very good, I guess, stationary shooter. He's not like a Terry Rozier by any means, but when he doesn't have the ball, he has that ability to find the open lanes to cut backdoor. He has that head of steam where he just goes straight towards the basket. People are going to find him, and he's going to go up, whether it's a contested shot or not, he's going to try to finish over somebody. I think one thing that we do need to keep an eye on, whether it's him or just whether with the construction of this roster for the Hornets, is how they use minutes at the backup point guard position. Last year we saw Terry Rozier play heavy amount of minutes. We technically don't have a backup point guard as of now. I think one thing that we have to keep an eye on could be Kemba Walker, but I don't think he's going to be anything like he ever was in Charlotte. If you saw him play last year in New York, it was a disappointing season. And obviously he's just coming off, injury after injury with those knees. But Cody Martin has some underrated playmaking ability, more so against a bent defense, second side stuff. He's not going to be bringing the ball up the court and necessarily getting the team into sets and initiating offense that way. I guess he could. We saw a little bit of that his first year in Summer League, but that's not the type of guy that you expect out of this guy. But he does have some playmaking creation. He's going to create some high quality looks for his teammates. And a lot of times it's off of a drive where he collapses the defense and he just dumps it down to someone in the dunker spot. So he does have that talent, playmaking. And I do wonder how Charlotte is going to kind of use their backup point guard minutes, because as of now, it's probably going to be some staggering that's involved. Terry Rozier, Cody Martin, whoever.
Yeah, and the free agent market, as far as like trying to add a backup point guard, is there's not a ton of options. I kind of like to see them try to maybe find someone younger or young-ish to take a flyer on, just to see if you can get Frank Jackson or something like that in the door. Although my guess is they'll prefer to go veteran, and who knows, maybe they'll try to bring Isaiah Thomas back. I suppose that's a possibility. Again, Cody's a guy that can give them a little bit of playmaking, but as you mentioned, like it really is coming off of some already. Like he is a guy that can, I think, be an advantage multiplier because he makes decent decisions with the basketball. He can attack. But so he's not just like a catch and shoot ball mover. Like he can do some stuff with it. It's just the advantage chain has to be kind of started already for that to get there. I don't think going into the season with Rozier as your,
right,
LaMelo as the only point guard and Rozier as the backup de facto is a great idea. Book Night is obviously on the roster, so maybe you can try to squint and squeeze him into some of those backup point guard minutes. It would be lovely to see him in Vegas for Summer League, but following hand surgery, last week or 2 weeks ago, Book Night will not be participating in Summer League, which is disappointment. That's a pretty good opportunity for him. Maybe Jalen Crutcher, who had a nice season with Greensboro in the G League, he's a part of the Summer League roster. So if Jalen plays well again out there, I don't think he's necessarily the solution, but I'd like to at least see him get a shot. So those are maybe a couple other things to kind of keep in mind. Do you want to sort of like take a snapshot of where the roster is right now, as far as like, following this news with Cody Martin? I mean, they don't need to sign the contract right after the moratorium. They can keep the cheaper cap hold on the books, which is, I think it's around $3 million or like a
Correct.
little bit more than that as far as the hold for Cody goes.
With that hold, they would have, if you're just keeping the hold on the books. Well, I guess if you keep Montrezl Harrell's hold on the books, I guess there's still an over the cap team. So I guess it just depends on what kind of exception they are going to use. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the roster right now, obviously Kelly Oubre's contract got guaranteed the other day. Yep. Miles Plumlee's got guaranteed. I guess it might have been like a handful of days before that. They are really when we just talked about it, they're really lacking at the backup point guard position. I think what's the most interesting position to me is going to be in that like 4-5 spot.
Yeah.
Mark Williams coming in as a rookie. He might not get a ton of playing time. You've got Mason Plumlee, who's this veteran that obviously has the experience with the system and stuff like that, but people have their qualms with him. And I understand. I mean, he's not a guy that looks the best always on offense. He can kind of clog up some spacing on that end. And
what? No, come on.
Yeah. But that's what I'm interested to see. And, you talked about Jalen Crutcher, and, there's a couple guys that are going to be interesting to watch during the summer league. Not that summer league is going to be any kind of indicator of how they're going to play in the NBA, but, I really love to see what Kai Jones can do this year.
Yeah.
And is he more of a 4? Is he more of a 5? I guess it's up for debate. But those are the two positions that I'm looking at: the backup point guard position, and then how is this center rotation going to form itself? Because I do think the wing position, the guard, like the shooting guard position, those types of players, I think they can kind of handle with Oubre and Rozier and PJ Washington, and JT Thor would be interesting too in summer league as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you said a lot of stuff I'd like to touch on. I mean, PJ can obviously factor into that center rotation. He certainly did with James Borrego. We'll see where Steve Clifford lands on that, but he's a guy that's played a lot of minutes at center the last couple of seasons. Nick Richards, his deal, I believe it becomes fully guaranteed on July 7th. But as Richie, as you noted on Twitter the other day, he is a part of the summer league roster, which their first game is the 8th of July. Yeah. So, we'll see. I think Richards kind of is what he is, which is like deep depth. I think we kind of know where he's at. Had some nice minutes for the Hornets this season, but, I'm not sure if he's a guy that should really factor too much into that rotation, even if he does make the final 15-man roster. If you watched Kai Jones this season in Greensboro, he played a lot of center. And as you would expect, like kind of a mixed bag defensively, although not all terrible. Like the handful of games I've seen, I thought Kai was pretty active and engaged as like a drop defender in the pick and roll that was trying to drop and then get up to the level or be at the level and then drop, really kind of trying to like play that middle ground area, which is tough. But with his athleticism and his flexibility, there were some impressive plays. I thought his like box outs were strong, but he's obviously still got a ways to go in terms of just like actual defensive, process. Again, Thor's a guy that should absolutely factor into the mix at the 4. Like there's some big opportunities for both Kai Jones and JT Thor to sort of like put a bit of an imprint on the roster. Gordon Hayward is someone that can probably give you some, just because of his strength, his post-up game, his threat as being a screener on offense. There's some lineups where he could be like the de facto 4, you know what I mean? I'm not sure how much Steve Clifford will want to go into that, but there are some guys. And I mean, right now, a lot of the free agent market is either on, it feels like it's either dried up or it's on hold because of the situations with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Although it does seem like there's real momentum now all of a sudden for, Westbrook, Kyrie, Brooklyn, LA trade. Who knows? Maybe by the time this pod comes out, that will have happened, or maybe it'll be closer to happening, or maybe it'll be fully off the table. But Charlotte was a team that was mentioned as a possible trade candidate, for Hayward, package centered around Hayward and Westbrook. So, right now, the way I'm looking at things, and I hope I have this correct, but just removing Miles Bridges, and we talked about Bridges and at the start of the pod, but removing him from the picture, I have Charlotte, and I'm including Richards in this as well. I have Charlotte at 13 guys for next season right now, which I have Hayward, Rozier, Oubre, Plumlee, LaMelo, PJ, Bouknight, Mark Williams, Kai Jones, Cody Martin, Jalen McDaniels, who they picked up the team option. Certainly the fully guaranteed date on August the 1st, something to watch. Nick Richards JT Thor. And then, so I have them at 13 there. So 2 slots to fill. Again, that's assuming no Miles Bridges, which is what should happen.
Right.
And then I also have McGowan's and I guess Scotty Lewis as 2 ways. McGowan's, I mean, who knows? Maybe one of those guys gets brought up to being, to round out the roster or whatever. But McGowan's will certainly be someone to watch out in Vegas, especially with some ball handling reps getting freed up because of the Book Knight injury.
Yeah, and we still have Nick Batum's $8 million dead money contract.
One more year.
And we're off.
It's crazy because what he signed, the deal he signed with the Clippers, I think is it 22 over 2 years, I think. So Nick Batum's still going to be getting upwards of $20 million combined between 2 teams next season. So good for him, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I have nothing really more to add. I think we did a good job of just talking about our thoughts on Cody Martin. I guess one more thing to kind of note here, it's nothing really to get too deep into, but Jake Fisher tweeted out today that Tyrone Corbin and Bob Byer are expected to join Steve Clifford's coaching staff. I will say this, like we talked about how Steve Clifford may keep on some of the previous coaching staff for the continuity sake, for the player development sake. But obviously, you just can't keep adding coaches without taking away. So I'm interested to see like which members of the staff are the ones that are going to stay and which ones have been let go that we just haven't heard about or will be let go in the next couple of days. So that's the last thought I have for this episode.
Yeah. And Corbin, someone that was with Clifford in Orlando, 2018 through 2021. So, obviously a little bit of continuity, but a guy that's also just been around the NBA for, 4 decades now or whatever. But that is something to keep an eye on. Obviously, with what is a very young roster in place here for the Hornets, and just we'll see how they round out the roster. And I am excited to see these guys in summer league, especially Williams and McGowan's as well. So and certainly Kai Jones and JT Thor too. Those are the ones to obviously highlight, I think.
Yeah, so the Hornets will have 4 games in summer league. We're going to try to get at least 2 post-game episodes. I know they're not obviously regular season games, but they're just something to talk about because it's going to start to dry up here, the content for our podcast. So we figure we get some post-game podcast in here as we wrap. First off, thanks for all the support so far on BuzzBeat Plus. But if you've not heard about it so far, you can check out the link in the description. You get ad-free episodes, you get early access to episodes, and you get exclusive episodes. So just check that out. There'll be a link in the episode notes as you're listening to this podcast. It takes all of 2 seconds to click on that link and just look more into it. So we hope you guys have a good day. For Brian, I am Richie. Go Hornets.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cashback you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.